as we've gotten involved and we were able to make that trip to DC and talk to people at the Capitol, they want to know. They want to hear from the people who have boots on the ground. Like, they want to hear what we have to say. And I think that's something powerful that people need to take advantage of.
Welcome to the Louisiana Farm Bureau Podcast. I am Allie Shipley, and today we are in the show barn with the Louisiana Farm Bureau Young Farmers and Ranchers State Chairs, Jamie and Aaron Lee from Vermilion Parish. So thank y'all for being here today and taking the time to sit with us.
Thank you for having us.
Happy to be here.
Okay, we're kind of joking. We sat down, we don't even know what we're talking about today. So they're as new to this as this conversation and these questions as the viewers are. Let's talk about, Aaron, you and Jamie serve as the state chair for the state board. Can you kind of tell us how you got involved in Farm Bureau and how you got to that seat today?
Well, I have known about Farm Bureau, the Farm Bureau Federation my whole life and kind of what they did, because my father was on the YF&R committee when I was a kid, and we'd go to the convention. I can remember that, but he ended up getting off of the board, and it was until 2011 when I was in college that I kind of got involved again with Farm Bureau because I knew I wanted to farm, and I figured I needed some help to get started again, and that's kind of how I piqued my interest to get involved. And
can you tell us a little bit about, you said like in 2011 while you were still in college, which is interesting because I feel like most people don't get back involved until they're back home on the farm. Did you get involved in your parish Farm Bureau back home? Kind of what did that involvement look like when you were like, oh, hey, I'm about to get my feet back on the farm. I need to get ahead of that a little bit, which is very proactive, and I'm so proud of you.
Well, I had a good friend of mine that I worked with at the dairy farm on campus. Her family was big into Farm Bureau, and she kind of mentioned YF&R to me, and I was kind of piqued my interest. And then I spoke with our parish president at the time, Mr. Errol Domang, and he welcomed me, with open arms to get involved. And at the time, it was me and one other person on the YF&R in our parish.
That's fascinating.
And then within 5 years or so, we had
5 or 6 years, we were up to 60.
We were up to 60 members in our parish, so we had rapid growth.
Yeah, that's crazy. I would not have, what I know of Vermilion YF&R, I would not have thought that. So
yeah, we had a lot of couples. At one point, I think it was 25 couples plus a few singles and people that would pop in and out.
I want to come back to this, but since I want to obviously introduce Jamie and kind of, why don't you tell us where you came into this story, because you're not from Vermilion and didn't grow up on the same family farm that Aaron did through the Farm Bureau pipeline. So kind of tell us where you fit into the story and where you started with Farm Bureau.
Okay, so Aaron and I had met at LSU. We had been dating for a while by the time that 2011 state convention rolled around. And so he said, hey, I want to go to New Orleans this summer. There's this thing called Farm Bureau, and kind of explained. And I was like, hey, that sounds like a great time. I was also in the college bag, and while my parents didn't farm, I do have family that's sugarcane farmers, and I grew up riding horses. So I wasn't a complete stranger to the industry. And we agreed it sounded like a good time. So we went to that first convention, like you said, in 2011, and we haven't missed one since.
That's crazy. That feels like yesterday. And full disclosure, I'm very good family friends with Jamie and Aaron, and Brittany was my sister was Jamie's college roommate, and I promise not to disclose any of the fun stories that I have on the podcast. But obviously, you were cool going to Farm Bureau convention, but you were no stranger to the ag industry, but you also were in the College of Ag where y'all met. So tell us why you decided to kind of go that route, even though you didn't grow up on a farm, but knew you wanted to be in agriculture.
Right, so when I first started at LSU, my major was animal science with a concentration in pre-vet. I grew up riding horses, like I said, and so I really wanted to stay involved in the industry somehow. And so after I decided, a couple years into college, I decided I wasn't going to go to vet school. And so I started looking for other options. And at that point, we had been to our first Farm Bureau convention. So I actually looked into ag communications because I was like, hey, this Farm Bureau deal was pretty cool. Maybe I can do something with that. And LSU doesn't have ag communications, so that's what led me to ag education. And then, I don't know, they convinced me to student teach somehow, and then it just kind of stuck from there.
God has a way, apparently, because you're now a ag teacher.
Correct, at Kaplan High.
And FFA advisor.
Yes, ma'am.
Y'all have two lovely little boys. We have to give them a shout out since they're somewhere here in the barn.
Oh yeah,
being chaperoned by others.
Yes, they are behind the barn with my in-laws.
Okay, so now that we have introduced how y'all have all intertwined and now everybody's up to speed with all that I know about you or close to it, let's go back to, because I think this is an important part, maybe for somebody who's listening who is in YF&R, but their parish isn't, Vermilion is kind of the YF&R standard right now, but you said it hasn't always been that way. Tell us the secret to success, or how'd y'all get to where y'all were? What do y'all remember about how y'all have grown?
I think at the time, it's not necessarily anything we did, just our group of friends are all pretty close. We were hanging out anyway on the weekends, and we all had a passion for agriculture. So once we got on, the next couple came with us, and we invited the next couple, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
I think a big part of that was that it never felt like extra work we had to do.
Right.
It was genuinely just hanging out with our friends who were also in agriculture or farming or ranching. And so it gave us all a place to talk about that and to keep it fun. I mean, we always have a meal. We bring our kids. I mean, at this point, our YF&R meetings look like a daycare operation. I mean, there's toy tractors all over the floor. Absolutely. And if you ever come, bring Collins. She would have plenty of friends to run around with.
That's funny. Let's backtrack even further, because it's got we're kind of talking about YF&R, assuming that listeners know what that is. But let's just say that somebody's listening and is like, well, this YF&R sounds fun. It sounds like a social club. Can you kind of explain, how would you give the elevator pitch to what the Young Farmer and Rancher program is, and what y'all do, and kind of what the selling point of the group is?
Take it away.
So Young Farmers and Ranchers is an organization for anyone between the ages of 18 and 35 who is involved in agriculture, specifically farming and ranching, but we do have lots of members who are involved in other aspects of agriculture. Not only does it give you a great place to network with people, which I feel like is the strongest, but you can also highlight a lot of your attributes. There's contests that you can participate in that have amazing prize packages.
The Achievement Award, and some past Achievement Award winners are sitting here with.
And not just that too, but even Excellence in Ag, which is great for those people who aren't farmers or ranchers or whose income isn't just that, as well as the discussion meet for those who are great at talking about what they do, and the Young Farm Woman, which is a really big one that I think is amazing, that showcases a woman's role on the farm.
There's our YF&R commercial. Aaron, you're going to have to practice your pitch, but since you let Jamie have that, you're doing great.
That was perfect. I wouldn't have said all of that.
I'm going to put this one on Aaron. Okay, talk about,
Were you reading that somewhere?
She's practiced.
I'm just.
We're going to put it on a brochure later.
Yeah,
we'll work on that as the next project.
Logged away, evidently.
We are a grassroots organization, and sometimes we get it's easy to see people at the state level and be like, that's just people just started there. You started at the grassroots. Aaron, can you talk about, you are now the state chair, and that is the state position, but you started in YF&R, what your pipeline in the leadership track kind of looked like, and how you went from just, hey, I'm about to farm and I need to go back and see, I need some help back in Vermilion, to being the state chair and being on the Hill in DC talking to legislators, just kind of what that track looked like for you.
Well, when I first started, the first convention I went to, I would see the YF&R chair up on stage. I went to the luncheon where they elected officers and stuff, and I was thinking to myself, there's no way I'll ever be up there, At the time, I wasn't very comfortable networking, with eyes on me at the time, and I knew I needed to work on that. I started off where I just opened my mind to doing, so I did the thing like discussion meet. I was not very good at it the first couple years, but I knew I needed to work on that, so I figured that was a good way for me to learn how to converse with other members and talk about our issues in a more professional setting, more or less. I did that for a couple of years, and then after a few years, I became the YF&R chair. Jamie and I became the YF&R chairs in our parish. We stepped into a little bit more leadership role then. Through my involvement with Farm Bureau, it gave me the encouragement to apply for the Ag Leadership class through the Ag Center. And after that, that really helped me with my leadership and my confidence to speak and just tell our story. Because, really and truly, if you're nervous about talking about what you do, all you need to do is get up there and tell your story. And that's what people want to hear. You don't have to be formal with it most of the time, and just say what you do on a daily basis. And people really like to hear that.
That's awesome, and a few bloopers along the way, we all do want to hear. Yeah. That's what people want to hear, and you're not giving yourself enough credit. You're great speaking to people. I got the chance to travel to DC with y'all and kind of be behind the scenes watching y'all talk to legislators, and you're not giving yourself enough credit. you're in the position for a reason. You're doing great. So
Thank you.
Be nice to yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've kind of talked a little bit about YF&R. We've kind of talked about how it didn't feel like work, but this also is a volunteer organization, and it does take time. It took time today. You're sitting down with us. This takes time. Parish board meetings take time away from the farm. State board meetings take time away from the farm. Y'all have 2 little boys at home. You're teaching in the classroom. You're farming full time. Like it's a lot, and this time is a precious commodity. Why do you find your involvement in Farm Bureau is worth the time that you sacrifice for it? And y'all can both give answers because I'm sure they're a little different.
When I graduated high school, my parents did not want me to farm at all. Things weren't too good. We were just coming out of the disasters of Hurricane Rita and Hurricane Ike flooded our farm twice within 3 years. And so Dad wasn't farming rice at the time, and so, Aaron, you're gonna have to go to college. That's what I heard, you're not farming. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I started college in animal science, and then, as I said before, my friend invited me to YF&R. The whole time I was in college, all I was thinking about was what I could be doing on the farm. So I got involved with Farm Bureau, and after I got involved, I was hearing at home, and they weren't mean about it or anything, but they just wanted me to experience something else, make sure that's what I wanted to do. And, at the time, it's like we came out of this disaster, and, how am I going to do this? I mean, everything is destroyed more or less back home. What can I do? Well, after going to convention and getting involved with Farm Bureau, I talked to a lot of people, and it gave me the encouragement really to go back home and do it, because I learned that yes, I can do this and I can be successful at it, and we never looked back since.
Jamie, you want to go?
For me, I really see the value of it, because yes, it does take a lot of time. Like when we go to Washington, D.C., first of all, that's something neither of us ever thought that we'd be a part of. Like you said, when we first started, it was, oh wow, like what they do is really cool, but like we're just cool staying on this side of it. But as we've gotten involved and we were able to make that trip to DC and talk to people at the Capitol, they want to know. They want to hear from the people who have boots on the ground. Like they want to hear what we have to say. And I think that's something powerful that people need to take advantage of. As long as somebody is willing to listen, somebody needs to be telling a story. And so I also see this side as agriculture and farmers need representation. And if we don't tell our story, somebody else will. And so if you want to make sure the right story is being told, it's kind of up to you to tell it. And then also just having the recruitment tools. If young people would understand like the benefit of just knowing the people in Farm Bureau, anytime we've had a question, whether it be how to do paperwork, how to fix a certain piece of equipment, where to find something, somebody knows. And if that person doesn't know, they know who does know. So it's just a great group of people to be involved with. And so that in itself is worth every minute that we've put into Farm Bureau, for sure.
Right, and everybody else that's involved wants to see you succeed, and as a whole.
What advice would y'all give? There's kind of 2 points I want to come back to, but the first one is you kind of talked about, I realized I have to go tell my story. I think we kind of talk about this a lot in ag. Like we're really good at just, well, I don't have time. Somebody else will do that. Like that's somebody else's job. Like I never saw myself at the Hill telling legislators what I was doing or having those hard conversations. What would you tell somebody that like sees themselves in the background and is like, I'm good where I'm at? Before you got involved in leadership, you were content being in the back and just like, oh, that seems cool. Those are for other people. I'm good back here. What would you tell them, that person that maybe has that similar mindset? Like, I see the benefit of it and I know that somebody has to tell our story, but somebody else is going to tell it. What would you tell that young farmer?
Well, I think I would start off by telling them my experience in it, my story from the beginning, because I was that way at one time, and I think I would just encourage them to just show up, and over time you're gonna, if you keep showing up, over time you're gonna meet people, you're gonna feel comfortable there, and then you're gonna really appreciate what Farm Bureau does for the agriculture industry, and once you know that, then you won't be scared anymore to get involved.
Right. I think it's important to let them know it's okay to take baby steps. The first time we told our story, it wasn't in DC, right? It was just, in the Marriott talking to somebody at a Farm Bureau conference. And then from there, it's like you get more comfortable and you realize that you can't tell your story wrong. You can't technically, I guess, mess it up in any way. There's no wrong way to do it. It's just sharing a little bit about yourself. And when you realize that Nobody's going to look at you like you're doing something different. You know, everybody's, like he said, everybody wants to see you succeed, and everybody wants to hear what you have to say. It makes it a lot less intimidating.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it is easy to stay at the back of the room and be like, oh, it's great that this is happening. But, you know, at some point, those people are stepping down, and we need people to step up behind us.
Mic drop again. This is a commercial.
And I mean, the more times you tell your story, your self-esteem is gonna go up, because you can say, you look back at where you started, and when you tell your story again, well, man, I've grown my farm since then, you know. And, you know, now look at us. You know, it's fun to go back and remember.
I mean, honestly, even just like, I'm kind of recalling back to the DC trip I was on with y'all, just listening, even throughout that trip, from the first time you told your story in the first office to like the second day in the last visit, like, oh, you get more comfortable, and you realize, hey, these are people. We're talking to people, but these are the people that are helping make decisions that impact us. So they're just people, and you're having those conversations. And I mentioned 2 points, and I now remember what my second point was, because I thought I had forgot. But you kind of talked about, and this kind of is going off the Farm Bureau script, but more about, and no fault of your parents, obviously farming is tough. Rice farming, grain farming is specifically tough. It was then for different reasons. We're kind of in another farm crisis currently, especially in the grain world. Y'all have 2 sons that are very integrated on the farm and in farm life. Yeah. What would you tell AJ or any of your kids if they did want to come back? Again, you probably, now that you have your own kids, can see where your parents were coming from, but you persevered through it. What would you tell them if they came to you and were like, I want to farm with what we know about agriculture right now? And y'all can both answer.
Well, looking back at that time, you know, it would kind of break my heart when they'd tell me I couldn't farm, because, you know, that's all I knew. I'd never worked anywhere else through high school and middle school. You know, all I did was work on the farm with my dad, and that's all I knew, and that's what I wanted to do. And when you're told that no, you shouldn't do that, you know, in me it kind of lit a fire.
Hold my beer.
To you know, give me a challenge, you know, to do it. And through my involvement with Farm Bureau, and going back to what you said, like, why do I spend my time with Farm Bureau, is because I somewhat maybe kind of owe it to Farm Bureau, because maybe if I didn't get involved, I might not be farming now, and I might not be as successful as we are, you know. There's hiccups along the road, but we're still moving forward.
I'm gonna let Jamie answer too, but I kind of just, I know there's a lot of diversification. Y'all kind of say, what did you gain from Farm Bureau that changed your operation that allowed you to continue farming? Can you kind of just give us a little history of the operation and what your dad's succession plan to you, and kind of what that integration looked like a little bit?
I'm the 6th generation to farm from my family, the Lee family, and they always did farm rice, raise cattle, and then they started fishing crawfish, you know, over time, and that's what they did, and they were great at it, you know, did a good job, they were successful. And then once I got involved, you know, as you know, with the rice prices and stuff, you know, things are up and down, and it's tough sometimes. Well, after I got involved, we had the opportunity to get in with a sugar mill and plant sugarcane. So we took the opportunity to diversify our operation since then and grow it, and that really has made a difference. You know, one year this might be good, the next year kind of helps not keep all your eggs in one basket,
right.
You know.
Especially with rice right now. Can you talk a little bit, and Jamie, I'm gonna let you answer the question about kids, because I know you also have a take as a mom, which is sometimes different. But how did Farm Bureau play into that opportunity, or did it, to diversification and changing the operation a little bit?
The people, you know, the people that came help me get started in sugarcane were all Farm Bureau members. You know, people I knew from the committees I'm on, and you know, they gave me information and kind of taught me how to do it. So yeah, if I would, like, going back, if I wasn't involved in Farm Bureau, I mean, I'm sure I would think we still would have done it, but it's definitely helped.
For somebody who's listening that maybe isn't directly involved in production agriculture, or has no idea what we're even kind of talking about when we talk about planting rice and sugarcane, because for some people, like, if you plant a garden, you can plant 2 different kinds of flowers. It's not that different. But I know from rice country and from being involved in Farm Bureau, rice and sugarcane are very different. I'm learning it's totally different equipment, it's totally different game, kind of what you had to be educated on to integrate sugarcane into your operation.
Well, we kind of learned as we went, more or less. The biggest thing was converting the land. You know, if we took rice land out to put sugarcane, we had to make it go from holding water to draining water.
See, I didn't know this.
So that was probably the biggest learning curve. Used to when we would precision level a rice field, we just made it flat. Well, now we had to go in and start putting slopes on fields and breaking levees down so the water can get out the field, because sugarcane, it needs to drain. That's the
It's fascinating.
that was the number one thing somebody told me at the beginning.
I don't know anything about sugarcane.
It's drainage. That's exactly how they said it to
Which
me.
is like totally the opposite of rice, where it's like hold
Correct.
water, hold
Yep.
water,
Correct.
hold water. So,
But also a lot too as far as learning the different varieties, because even between different fields, you have some sugarcane that's known for growing well in this type of soil versus this might get salt water on it when the hurricanes come, and knowing which variety was going to perform where and where we can get the seed varieties of these, because you don't just go to the store and buy seeds for sugarcane. It has to start with an actual standing stalk.
also didn't know that.
So you have to find a farmer or a group or a company or work through the mill and source cane that has to be cut for you to lay down in the ground. It's not like rice where you just go buy a bag of seed and throw it out with the tractor.
Yeah, so mainly the first year when we got involved, we got some land ready, and we just planted those plots for seed plots for us to cut and harvest the next year to really grow our acreage. So that first harvest, we didn't really have much to harvest because we cut a lot of it
Yeah.
to seed.
And it's also a 2-year crop or 3-year crop. 2, 3.
You can get 3 stubbles or 4
That
harvests
also blows my mind.
on average, I think.
Awesome. So how many years into sugarcane farming are y'all?
This past harvest was our 3rd harvest.
Oh, awesome. That's so fun. Does it make you feel a little more at home? Like you come from sugarcane
Yes,
land.
I
like-
actually love it. When it was a huge kind of leap of faith. However, I was definitely team sugarcane because I grew up around it, and so I love it. I love to see it out in the fields, and it's important to him to diversify and still keep the rice. Like he said, he's a 6th-generation rice farmer, so I do think we'll have the rice around for quite some time now. But it kind of goes back to what about telling our kids?
That's what I was about to say. Well, speaking of that leap of faith, I
yes.
never let you answer. Sorry, I went
Yeah,
down a
no,
rabbit hole.
but that's exactly where my answer was going to go, is you can't be scared to diversify as long as you do your homework. I mean, leaps of faith can be scary. Any leap of faith in farming involves a lot of money. So,
True.
but if you do your homework and you know the market and you are willing to put in the work, try something new. There's niche markets in agriculture. There's everything from online marketing, farmers making TikToks to support income now. I mean, there's so many.
We're gonna have to get Aaron on TikTok.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
We got some blooper reels to start.
Yes, but I mean, there's so many streams now to find ways to make a revenue. So yeah, I would definitely encourage them to stay in agriculture if that's what they choose to do, and just not be afraid to diversify, to be creative, to look into different ways they can turn a profit.
It sounds like 7th generation, it's gonna happen with the sport, and mom and dad are like leaps of faith. We got y'all.
Yeah, if they want to do it, we'll definitely support them.
That's awesome.
Best we can.
And I know your mom
my
and dad
parents
support
did.
him,
Oh
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
I always fall back on my mom and dad for anything I have questions for. I call my dad 5 times a day, and sometimes I aggravate him. But,
And I bet
but
he's really glad that you were hard-headed as you are.
Now that I came back and we're doing what we're doing now, I think he's happy that I came back.
Someday,
Unless I
it'll be
make
one day,
him do too much work, But he's always a great resource to fall on.
Yeah.
He's experienced a lot. He knows what he's doing, and I thank him dearly for what he's given me and the opportunity to keep the farm going.
We are too, because y'all are obviously clearly assets to. Obviously, I get to now mingle with y'all in my professional life, but y'all are huge assets to the YF&R program and to agriculture, and are huge advocates for it. So it's just wonderful. Let's kind of talk about that. If you had to name your biggest YF&R win, or what's your favorite victory moment, memory of YF&R, what would it be?
For me, it would definitely be the Achievement Award, and not just because of the great prize package, but because I distinctly remember sitting at our kitchen table, typing on that application that seems like it takes forever, but by the time you finish it and you look back, because it really makes you self-reflect, to see how far we came. Because when you wake up in the morning, you don't wake up and think about everything you've done, right? You wake up, you get the kids dressed, you go to work, you go to bed, and you do it again the next day. And so, sometimes you don't take the time to stop and look around and see how far you've come. And so knowing what our goals were when we started and what our mindset was going to that first convention in 2011, to actually being one of those couples up on a stage, it was humbling. So to me, that was my favorite, because we just got to see everything that we had accomplished and how much we do owe to Farm Bureau. And that was such a full circle moment for me. I loved it.
And after doing that application, it made me think, like, on the hard days when things aren't going right, you know, it always makes me reflect back from when we started and how far we've come. And it makes those hard days a little bit easier, and kind of made me realize, a hard day is a blessing now, because we built something that's worth working that hard for, in my opinion.
This is so sweet.
That was beautiful.
This is poetic, Aaron. I didn't know. Look, this is not blooper Aaron. This is poem
I know.
Aaron.
I don't know how to take serious
If I
Aaron
was
sometimes.
drinking.
There he is.
We know you have been.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking. Okay, we're going to kind of wrap up. If somebody is listening that is curious about YF&R, is considering donating, I feel like donating your time is maybe actually a good way to say it, volunteering their time, what do you want them to know? What do you hope they took, not just from this episode, but what do you hope they know about Louisiana Farm Bureau, their Parish Farm Bureau, YF&R?
Farm Bureau has their back, and they're here for them at any step of the way. And the resources are unlimited on what you can do, by being involved.
And the main resource is the people.
Right.
A lot of people talk about membership benefits, and don't get me wrong, there are lots of those. However, your biggest resource is that you get a family. You get an entire network of people who want to help you succeed. And we just can't say enough about the people. They're not somebody who's wanting something from you all the time, except for maybe a little bit of your time. But honestly, if you...
I was about to say, how many times has Carl called y'all?
and sit and talk to y'all. But other than that, your biggest resource is just the people you meet and having that support system. And it gives you the courage to try the new things, whether it's going to DC or applying for these awards or doing a podcast.
In the middle of the show barn when you're busy.
Yeah.
And I did notice if you do something and you're not too good at it, everyone that's around you in Farm Bureau is going to encourage you and help you do better. They're not going to look down on you if you don't do something right. They all understand that it's a learning curve, and they want to help you get along. So
Yeah, we're just killing it today. I mean, they're also really fun to hang out with, so that's another plus that you should join.
Yeah.
Is there anything about Louisiana Farm Bureau or YF&R that we haven't touched on that y'all want to make sure that whoever's listening hears?
I think one of the most surprising things for me this past year, being involved on the executive board for YF&R, especially with this new role as chair, is getting to know all of the board members on the state board. That has just been so much fun. And our quarterly meetings, hanging out with them every couple months, their meetings are always a great time. And I know sometimes when people think board meetings, a great time is not what they think of.
You can say it looks boring when you think about people sitting around a board table, which is honestly what sometimes Farm Bureau is portrayed as, is a bunch of farmers in suits sitting around the board table. And if that's all you've ever seen, that does not seem like a good time.
The meetings themselves, so much interesting stuff gets talked about. Like the topics they cover, as somebody else in agriculture, to me, they're genuinely interesting. But then also the social aspect after it, going to dinner with everybody, getting to meet the board members and their wives or their spouses, and just getting to know them on a different level, because being in YF&R, it's kind of that same group of people. And we know that that's a good time because that's what we've always known. But to see that next level of kind of what else we can reach for after this road, to me, that's been really exciting.
And we really want to thank them for giving YF&R a seat at the table on the board, and it's been a great experience.
I know they're happy to have you, and I know it's an important seat, and I think there's a reason that YF&R sits on the chair. That's the future of that board. That there's the state YF&R chair sits on the table, but it's the people who are involved in YF&R that are going to fill that table soon. So I think it's important, and thank y'all for taking the time to sit at that table and being at that table. I know it's really important, and again, we know that y'all are busy. I know that y'all are busy, but thanks for taking the time to share y'all's story and sharing it different, no matter how we ask y'all to do it, how many times you're always willing, and we just appreciate it.
Of course.
Well, thank y'all for what y'all do. Y'all do a great job.
You're thanking me, not Carl, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, we couldn't tell our story if somebody didn't have a podcast to put it on.
Well, I think there's a show about to start up, so I think we're going to have to wrap it up. But if you want to learn more about Jamie and Aaron and all the dirty secrets I didn't air here today, or more about the Louisiana Farm Bureau, Young Farmers and Ranchers, or your Parish Farm Bureau, we're going to link that in the show notes here. And we'll see you next time on the Louisiana Farm Bureau Podcast.